Hey everybody, welcome to Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. My name is Reed with Best Made Videos. We are a wedding videography company based out of West Seattle, Washington, and I'm so excited to be joined today by a new friend, Brianna Nassman. She's the new owner of Orting Manor, a wedding venue, and I want to thank you so much for reaching out today. It's a beautiful day. I know you're out in the backyard, so we might hear some, birds or dogs, and that's totally okay. We gotta do what we can to stay sane nowadays. So thank you so much for coming on. Why don't you introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hey, I'm Brianna of Orting Manor. We just bought it in December. So new wedding venue owner. We're changing a lot of how the business is run and a lot of updates to the house and property. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's quite an odd time to go into venue ownership, and then with everything going and kind of postponing the delay of the season. Has that been giving you guys more time to get stuff kind of as you envision, or what's that process been like?
Well, yeah, when I bought it in December and had some grand plans to do a really quick cosmetic remodel in the house, and I've been doing most of the work myself. So here I am, and gosh, we're in May now. Not quite finished. It's every day I keep thinking, oh gosh, it's almost done. But it's been a little bit nice to have a little bit more freedom to take the time to spend on it and not stress about getting it done.
So if anyone doesn't know, why don't you talk about a little bit about the property, what's it like, and kind of any history of it that you want to get into?
Sure. Yeah. So the house, the actual Orting Manor was built in 1901. And long story short, it's only had a few. I think we're the fourth or fifth owners of the house. So in 120 years, it's been pretty cool. It's an awesome house, and the venue's in the backyard. It's really, really beautiful, really well landscaped. Flows really well. So it's definitely not a big farm venue or 100 acres or something like that, but it's quite beautiful. So yeah, we love it.
What kind of couples do you find, or what drew you, I guess, to it too? I mean, what do you think is, the big draws, like aesthetically and the style? Like you said, the barn thing is kind of, really popular. I think some vendors kind of mixed it, it just because it's so much. But what's kind of the vibe and that sort of thing?
Well, it is, a Victorian house. So there's definitely like a vintage vibe to lean into. Definitely kind of garden feel. The biggest draw, I think, for a lot of couples is that we actually do full weekend rentals. And so people can stay in the house and they can have 10 guests in the house if they want. So you get the whole weekend basically to have your wedding experience instead of just having like a one-day wedding.
No, I love that. We did a couple years ago, there was a property out in Chelan that did it wasn't one of the, I can't even remember what, like the wineries and stuff, but it was like a kind of an Airbnb rental. And it was so nice to be able to you and your bridal party, your family, or whoever, and stay out there. I thought that was such a unique thing, because then, we show up and you're like, everyone's kind of like rested and ready to go, as opposed to we're dumping all of our stuff at 8 a.m. trying to frantically get going,
Yes, exactly. And there's so many, weddings are so intense. Honestly, they are. It's a lot to set up. It's a lot to get ready. And if you're the couple, it's a lot of stress. And I just found that in my own wedding, like the short rental period we had and we were pretty low on decor, but it was like, oh my gosh, we have like 2 hours to get everything set up and for me to get ready. And I ended up getting ready at home. And I didn't want that experience for people. I think if you're spending that much money on a wedding, like you really want to enjoy it. And you can't really enjoy it if you're rushing around all day, trying to get things set up and micromanage everyone. And
No, yeah. When we got married, we did the same thing, and we just got ready at home. It's so hard, and you see this like same day kind of check in, check out, and you're trying to get everything and throw it in the limo or throw it in the shuttle. And I'm like, man, I'm barely keeping track of my own equipment, let alone, I couldn't imagine we got to send Aunt Sally back later to get whatever. I mean, it's just it's just chaos.
I'm pretty sure we actually left some gifts at our wedding venue and no one noticed and they got thrown away.
That's awesome. So talk to me about your background. How did we get to where we are today in purchasing a wedding?
Sure. My background's real estate. So I have a couple investment properties, and that's been my passion for a while. And I love rehabbing houses. So walking into a 1901 Victorian, a lot of the features are original. Obviously, there's been updates over the years, but it's been really, really cool to restore it from my perspective. So I love remodeling. I love buying houses. That's my jam. I decided I wanted a wedding venue, and I honestly don't even remember what it was that sparked that. But we looked at doing like an elopement venue in our backyard, and the county was like, yeah, that's never going to happen. So at that point I said, well, I want a wedding venue. So for whatever reason, I went on those hunts to go find one. I knew I didn't want to build one just because that's such a economic, it's like super expensive and it takes forever. So we were looking for existing venues, and we found the Ording Manor. And the second I walked up to the property, I knew it was like, I have to have this house.
Yeah, because it is kind of like you talk with a lot of vendors, and that is kind of like the pipe dream of like, well, we're going to start a venue someday, or we want to open a venue. Or I remember I was even talking to this couple, I guess they didn't book me, but I guess they got married this year. So it was last year we were talking, and they were like in the booking meeting, they're like, well, we really are thinking that once we get done with all this, we want to open our own venue. And I was like, I would get married first and then like figure this stuff out. You know what I mean? Which is great. And like, obviously that could work out for people, but I was like, I would definitely like get through it once before you decide
Absolutely.
That you want to do it.
Oh yeah. And coming into this business with basically no experience in the wedding industry, I was in my own wedding. It's definitely been a bit of a learning curve. But I've leaned on some planners and stuff to help me with the actual weddings. And so all my couples that are booked for the summer are doing full coordination with my perfect wedding assistant, who I believe you've also interviewed, actually.
We have.
And so that's really great because they know the business, they know what they're doing, they know how to run a wedding. And so I don't need to worry as much about like messing it up because they've got it.
Yeah, because there's definitely kind of either side of the coin that, the venue ownership can go on. We've worked at places where the owners are very hands-on, maybe even too hands-on, sometimes, and you're trying to balance versus, ones that want to focus on ownership and then, leave kind of some of that planning and stuff out, so that you feel like you're more on that side and you want to bring in the expertise to kind of help facilitate.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm not a wedding planner on any spectrum, like with any definition. That's not my thing. So I don't want to be responsible for someone's wedding. I just know that I can run a venue and it's a beautiful venue, and I know I can have that aspect down. And so I'm very comfortable in that field, but definitely not in terms of like being super hands-on. I love going to weddings. I definitely plan on being there, but I don't want to be the point person.
So, yeah, what was your guys' wedding like? What was that? And has there been anything that you've learned that, like you said, not being stressed or having the place, being able to get ready somewhere? What's some lessons that you've learned?
Absolutely. Well, I had my perfect wedding assistant do my wedding, and we had an extremely small guest list, the most laid back wedding. We got married at Woodland Park Zoo. And so there was no like fluff about it. It was I got ready at home. We drove to the venue. We took some pictures and we got married. But it was really fun. It was super, super fun. And, I've been to a few weddings that I don't know if I'd call them fun, which is fine. But I feel like, again, if you're bringing that many people in, you're spending that much money, you want to have like a really memorable event. And that's just my personal opinion. But mine was super fun. And I credit that deeply, deeply to Rosalind and my perfect wedding assistant for their help. I think at that point, by the time I showed up, I don't know if we would have actually gotten married without them there. So it was, I think that was huge to have them there.
It's so hard nowadays. And we've talked in the last couple of weeks too on the podcast about, with this people postponing, or taking time to reflect, because that has been kind of my experience over the last year or two, that you get a lot of burnout, like even day of, in couples, and you feel like we're doing stuff that maybe people don't want to do, or in the way, or we're doing photos for 18 hours or, whatever. And so, my hope is that, like, maybe taking some time and figuring this stuff out. And, if we do need to make smaller guest counts, if you still want to do it, in the phases or whatever, but that people are really focusing more on like what they want and what, what they want and the feelings that they want versus like maybe a family member or, did a brother and sister do it a certain way? I mean, do you felt like, you just want it to be fun,
Yeah, and it really was. It was super fun. I'm not going to lie. We had an open bar, and that was, well utilized. But it was really fun. The animals were cool. It was a cool venue. I mean, it wasn't a wedding venue. It like definitely didn't have that feel. It more had a feel of like a big party or a small party. Really, only 37. But it was super fun, and I think you can have a wedding that feels like a wedding, but also have the fun part of it too. So. Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on right now with weddings, and should be interesting to see where it ends up.
Yeah, and especially as like the venue where it's I think it's the trickiest thing because we've been obviously talking with couples too, and they'll be like, well, hey, like, what do you think is a lot of venues? You're like, we got, it's this day, or you got to wait 6 months, or, like it's hard to try to like, there's just so limited. And I do think people are realizing that now too, even as we're transitioning some of ours to next summer. And I think people are already realizing like, there's really just not that many like Saturdays in the summer to do it.
There really isn't. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, here in the Pacific Northwest, we get, three-ish good months of weather, and there's only so many Saturdays. In fact, not actually that many in those 3 months. So it is definitely tough. I think I feel so bad for couples right now who are rescheduling their summer weddings because it's really tough. And venues I feel for too. I mean, we've got these big mortgages. We have exorbitant amount of expenses, like with landscaping and utilities and just, payroll, all this stuff. And so it's really hard on both ends for couples having to reschedule and, maybe paying a fee or not even being able to get a date that works for them in 2021 or later in 2020. But then, of course, venues are struggling too. So it's definitely a tough time for everyone.
Yeah, because and we were thinking about that the other day too, because I was thinking about how my my equipment is just kind of sitting not being used, right? Because you figure like anything you buy, right, has like a lifespan and so many uses or whatever. Where so I'm like, man, like where I'm gaining like 6 months more, right? Like I can use like a lot of my cameras and stuff, whatever that we're not using now, and you think like if you're a venue, not only is it the mortgage and everything, but it's upkeep and like keeping everything ready to go. It's not like you can just flip a switch tomorrow if they, open everything up. It's like you kind of got to like maintain the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, my venue has a pool, and I've never had a pool before. I have no idea how to maintain a pool, and it's been a struggle. I let it go over the winter, and that was a big mistake. And so just trying right now to get it cleaned up, and I've been playing phone tag with the pool maintenance companies, trying to get someone out there to help me. But I mean, if I had a wedding in a week, I would be like panicking right now because the pool is not in good shape. But it's stuff like that, or like the weeds that come in the spring, or like the grass growing, you can't let that go because you have a tour or whatever. I mean, it goes so quickly. It's unbelievable how quickly the yard will go if you let it.
Have you guys been able to leverage that and kind of doing virtual walkthroughs and stuff? Has that been something, and how has that process gone?
Yeah, sure. I've been doing Google Hangouts, video calls basically, and doing tours that way. It's definitely a little awkward. I think it's really hard to get like a real feel of the space via, your laptop. But, I have had one couple book and, a few interested, but most of them are waiting to make a decision until they can come see it in person, to be honest. And I really can't blame them. If you're going to spend that much money, you want to like really sit in this space and see how it's going to like feel on your wedding day. So it's definitely tough for couples to decide. But it has gone, it's been good. Like I still have quite a few virtual tours booked, from that. So that's helpful. At least people are getting to see it. And if it's a no, then you don't have to drive all the way out there. So at least it helps on some level.
What was the biggest, like you said, kind of coming into, obviously doing real estate and everything, but coming into the wedding industry, what was the biggest challenge or thing that you thought that wasn't going to be a thing? Or, it had to have been a huge, anybody entering the wedding industry. It's like, wait, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah. I have to say I severely underestimated like the maintenance of the property, which is funny given like I have multiple. But, it's a really old house, the oldest house I have for sure. And again, the yard is really big. And so I definitely underestimated like the actual work involved with maintaining the property. That's been the hardest thing. I've had really good luck with couples, have all been really lovely, and I've been really happy to book them. And then, I passed them off to Rosalind, and that's worked really well. So I haven't had too many struggles in terms of like the actual wedding business per se. I think it's definitely more, but I am brand new to it, so that could completely change in a few months. Let me throw a wedding and then I'll tell you.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, because a lot of times if people are going from doing makeup or whatever and then starting the business, I mean, being in real estate, like a lot of that stuff you're still managing anyway, right? Figuring out taxes and stuff and everything else.
Yeah.
Has a lot of that parlayed into, obviously running the business?
Definitely. This is my third business that I've owned myself. So I have quite a bit of experience in like that. And it's my second, it's my second business that's like on a property I own, and my third real estate related business. So I definitely have a pretty strong foothold in terms of like managing that and like the taxes and all that sort of thing and insurance. And so that comes really easy to me. Thank God. But if you're coming from like the makeup world and you're buying a venue, there's going to be an enormous learning curve, I think, unless you have a real estate background, because it is a very different type of business. Owning a real estate related business is a very different type of business than owning, just a small business, I think, just because, the house comes with a lot.
Did you go to school, or how did you get involved in all this? Where did the inspiration come from?
Oh boy. I always wanted to be a psychologist. So I went to college. I was in my third year. I was working 3 jobs and in school full time, like just nonstop working. And we were on winter break, and I decided I was going to get my real estate license. Because I had all this free time because I was only working 3 jobs and not in school. So I decided to get my real estate license. I did that, and I fell in love with real estate. So I actually dropped out of school. I think I was 2 or 3 quarters from graduating. Ditched the whole psychology plan, which is really, really good that I did that because I would not have been a good psychologist. And then I started selling houses. I was a real estate agent. And then I bought my first property, I think within a couple of years. And then I bought, I actually own a clean and sober house. So that was my first investment property that I bought, which is also a whole thing unrelated to weddings. But yeah, that's basically how I got started, and that the passion never has died.
Obviously, being a real estate agent and, being personable and, showing and everything, I mean, has that translated well as, to showing the venue and everything too? Is it a similar thing? I have no idea, right?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's basically the same thing on a lot of levels, where you're showing the property, and it's the couple's decision if they're going to fall in love with it or not, and so I show it and I point out the things that I like the best. And well, there's not too much that I dislike, but during the remodel, there's certainly things that I didn't want to point out. But and then people, it's either the right fit for them and they love it, or it's not. And it's very, very similar to showing houses in real estate.
But I guess it is different in that you're, it's not your house, but it's your property. You're showing. Most realtors don't go around showing their own property all the time.
Yeah. I think that's a benefit because I automatically love the place. So I love it. I love this house. And so I show it, and I think my passion and love for the house shines through. Whereas when you're a real estate agent, you're just showing someone else's house, and you might love it, you might not. But I'm not having to make things up on the fly. Oh, look at this cool kitchen sink. It's I put this here. I chose this, or this was original to the house, or whatever. I already love it.
Yeah, I remember when we bought our house, and I had a realtor that I had done a lot of video work for, and I think when we came, we saw it, and then we came back and saw it again, and he was definitely man, isn't the backyard just so much bigger than you remember? Isn't this just so? And I was like, Rick, you don't need to I was like, I know you, man. You don't try to sell me on this stuff. Let me figure this out.
Yeah.
It's man, it's just so much brighter in here than I remember. Don't you think it's brighter? Trying to pull anything you could to
Yeah. Totally. That's so funny.
What's this clean and sober house? That sounds interesting.
Yeah, so that is a house that we own. It's up in Everett in Snohomish County. I used to live in Linwood, so that's hence that. Now I'm down south, but it is a housing for, I guess they technically qualify as disabled. So it's housing for disabled adults, but we're specifically, most of our clientele is those that are in recovery. We have some that are actually from the Department of Corrections, so they're, just looking for a place to live after they get out of jail. And it's been pretty good. I managed it myself when I lived up in Linwood for about a year and a half, and then I hired a manager. And it definitely was an interesting experience. I'm not someone who's come from the background of like being around a lot of drug use or alcohol use. And so we had a couple instances where I let things maybe put a little bit too much trust into people. And yeah, they were interesting experiences, but I learned a lot. And it's going really well now. I have a manager in there who really knows what she's doing, and she's fantastic. And when things are going well, it goes really well. And it's such a needed, program for people, because it is really hard to find affordable housing. And if you have an eviction on your record, no credit, criminal history, it's very, very, very difficult. So it's a nice service to provide to people who need it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fascinating. It's such a, weird dichotomy from, the weddings. That's so interesting, right? To be on both sides of everything.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I love getting my hands dirty and getting in, jumping in with both feet and learning about a business. And that's my favorite. It's really just learning a new business.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that when you were talking about, college and balancing all these jobs and everything. Where does that, that drive come from, or has it just always been that way? You haven't thought differently about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I think I moved out when I was pretty young, and I had some struggles going. Moving out when you're 18 and not knowing what's going on in the world is a little challenging. Going from a cushy life to paying bills. And long story short, I had to learn a lot really, really, really quickly as an 18-year-old. And so I did that, and I think I just kind of never left that momentum train. I've had some times where I've just sat on the couch and watched Netflix for about a month straight. But for the most part, I tend to have a lot of drive for my businesses and a lot of passion. And I try to put all of myself into them. And then, I take a little Netflix break for a while. But I think I've kind of always had that kind of intensity, I guess, is probably the best way to describe it, about whatever I'm passionate about.
That's great. Did you grow up in the area? Are you from here?
Yep. Born and raised.
What has it been like just, getting just bigger into the community here, obviously through real estate, through the weddings? Really just feeling like expanding that network out and really kind of growing into the area. Has that been exciting?
Yeah, it's been really fun. I wish I could say that I've done more networking. But of course, everything with COVID starting, it was one of those things where I got my venue and I thought, well, I'm working on it full time right now. I'm basically remodeling nonstop. So I'll do some networking in the spring when I have more time. And then of course, now we're stuck at home. So that didn't happen. I am planning on going on to Wedding MBA. So I'm super excited about that. That'll be like my first big, welcome to the wedding venue or the wedding industry sort of event. So, I think, I have a lot to learn about weddings and a wedding business, and I'm really excited to meet more people and actually have that whole opportunity that I put off until we had a global pandemic. So,
well, now you're coming on the podcast. That's a good first step.
Yeah, I figured.
No, the Wedding MBA is awesome. We've done it. I've done it twice in the last 3 or 4 years. It's so interesting because you're someone that has more kind of the business background, going into it, where, you get a lot of these people that are like, I just want to do calligraphy or photos or whatever. They have no idea how to run a business. So it'll be interesting to hear kind of your thoughts about it, because I do think it's such a fascinating, just to really get yourself to think differently about, the business of actually being in weddings. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is. It is interesting being in a business where there are a lot of people who are small business owners that aren't really business people, I guess, is the best way to put it. because it can be really tough being in business for yourself. There's a lot of downsides. For one, if you're self-employed, it's been pretty challenging for people to get unemployment right now. And if you're in the wedding industry, you're probably not working much. So that's one of the things that people who are going to business for themselves don't often think about is that sort of thing. Of course, taxes change. There are a lot of great things with taxes too, though, like loopholes for, small business owners, that can be really beneficial. So, really important to have a good accountant, by the way. But yeah, sorry, I think I kind of derailed from your original question.
No, continue. That was great.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to learn. I guess if I were to give any advice to wedding business people who are, small business owners who don't consider themselves business people, keep track of your accounting. I know it's really boring, but make sure you have a separate bank account for any of your expenses, and make sure you know what your expenses can be. Like, you might be able to deduct your Wi-Fi, or if you have a home office space, there's all sorts of deductions that you can take to make your life a little bit easier. So just make sure you know about those, and your accountant knows, that you can take them. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good start. I think, I could probably write a book on it, but that's a good start. Have a separate bank account for your business stuff.
No, it's funny. I've talked to more photographers and other vendor types than you could count over the last couple of weeks with, figuring out, do we want to do unemployment or the PPP loans, or figuring out all this different stuff. And I will tell you, it has been I never really prided myself on running that profitable of a thing, or do I have all my stuff in order? But I've come to realize I do actually have a pretty good handle on, just our stuff, and obviously running a videography business is way different than venues or real estate or whatever. But it's been really interesting to me, talking with photographers, and they're like, oh my God, I actually really calculated my net profits today, and it was really not what I thought it was, or whatever, and you're like, wow, and these are people that have been around, not 1, 2, 5, 6, 8 years, a long
absolutely.
time. And it's just been, I can tell you, many photographers in the last 4 weeks have learned exactly how much they make every week and every year, and they probably never knew that number at all ever before.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that is another great point, is with a small business, it's so easy to not remember to pay yourself. You're not just in business for yourself. You have to pay yourself. You have your expenses, and those are paid for by the business, and they should be covered by the business. You have, marketing, whatever, your overhead, but you have to pay yourself too. And that's a tough thing. I mean, even for me, I certainly don't pay myself right now. But I hope that I can pay myself next year. I've actually heard some people say to pay yourself first before your other bills, and that is a pretty scary concept if you have a really big mortgage. But I think that's a good thing to target towards.
No, it's hard, and especially just people get caught up in the seasonality and stuff. I mean, it's so hard, to balance that, but. No, I mean, I definitely feel like I've learned a lot more about what expenses can I cut out in the last couple weeks, which I do think has been good, right? I think a lot of people are learning how to live a little leaner, but I don't know. I just always focused on I don't know. I always feel like I have an internal compass or scale or whatever, where I can just tell if I have more money coming in or out, and in any given time, and it could be by the week or by the day or by the month or whatever. So I feel like I have a pretty good okay, I've spent way too much on whatever right now, and I don't know. It's just interesting just talking with a lot of people lately and kind of seeing numbers and being like, oh, because you don't know, right? As one wedding vendor to another, or as, you just don't know. You're like, well, I guess we're all kind of a business. We're all kind of doing the same thing. And then you're like, well, no, it's just not. It's just way different scales.
Oh, it totally is. Yeah, it totally is. And everyone runs their businesses differently and has a different knowledge spread on actually running a business. So I bet that's interesting for you getting to interview everyone.
Talk about, I'm looking at this beautiful family photo on your website. Talk to me a little bit about your home life, and what do you do when you're not managing all this other fun stuff you're doing?
Yeah. So that's our daughter, Veronica. She's now 15 months. So That was taken, almost a year ago. But she's fantastic. She's a lot of fun. She's a lot of work. Luckily we have an awesome nanny share. And so she's out right now at her friend's house, Harris. And so they go, they're both 15 months and they're so cute. They're really funny together, and our nanny's amazing, amazing, amazing. So, very, very, very lucky to have that childcare set up. There's no way I could, in between, painting a 1901 house and trying to manage and run a brand new business on the side, and plus my other stuff. There's no way I could do it without that. But, yeah, that's my husband and my daughter. And we live in Maple Valley, actually. We've got a dog and a cat and 2 crazy horses.
What's the inspiration behind having the horses?
I have had horses my whole life. Well, I haven't had them. I've ridden them my whole life. I bought my first horse when I was 18. And I'd had that horse for a few years as a lease. And then I bought her for $1. So, that was definitely a young person's decision, but I still have her, and I actually have another one now, of course. And yeah, they're just living the life. They have our neighbor has a big field that we rent from them, so that's what they're doing. All their time is spent eating grass.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely down to getting a little more land and space down in Maple Valley. That's good.
Oh yeah, we absolutely love it. My husband always lived in like the downtown Seattle area, and so I kind of had to sell him on the dream of living down a driveway where no one can see your house. And he's actually learned to love it too. He thinks it's really great that we can go walk the driveway with our daughter and not worry about cars or anything really. So.
Yeah,
lovely.
When it comes to the property, stuff that you wish people knew more that you're pointing out, or that you want people to know about it? And that could be stuff to make the wedding easier, about hours or minimums or booze or anything. Give me some of the details about all that stuff.
Yeah, well, we have an open catering policy, an open vendor policy. It just has to be a licensed and insured caterer and bartender. I highly, highly, highly recommend people hire a planner, or at least a day of coordinator, a professional. But it's not required right now. But I'm on the fence about whether or not I might start requiring it. And then most people do book our full weekend package, which is currently has services included for a month of coordination. And that's been really popular. And I think people don't. One thing I've noticed is that people seem to be not necessarily realizing the entire wedding budget that they're going to need to spend. And so that's been a little bit interesting in talking to people, because I don't want to dissuade them, I guess, from booking with me. But on the other hand, weddings are really expensive, and I don't think people necessarily realize how much they're going to be spending until they get closer to their wedding day. And so I guess I wish that couples were a little bit more maybe educated on, and I know venues are usually the first that people book, so it's a little bit hard. And I kind of try to do that a little bit, because I hate the feeling that, I'm not sure if someone realizes how much they're going to end up paying for their wedding. And I don't want them to book if they're going to, come to the wedding or be 3 months before their wedding, realize they can't afford it, Anyway, that was a total tangent.
No.
Open vendor policy.
No, that's good. This is all good. It's all good info.
And the full weekend's been the most popular because you can stay overnight and, like we talked about earlier, totally relax and just enjoy yourself and not be stressing all morning. I think that's it. We're fairly laid back. We do require event insurance. But again, I really want people to have fun. So I have certain rules, obviously, for the safety of everyone in my building. No smoking and indoors, no fires, that sort of thing. But I'm fairly laid back. If you want to go swimming, that's fine. If you're too drunk to swim, you might need to talk to your bartender, but please don't get in the pool. That's definitely something that worries me a lot, is the pool. That's about it.
No, and like I said before, with the overnight policies, I can't express enough like how great I think that idea is. It just the stress that I've seen from that alone
Yeah.
and trying to get out of stuff, it's crazy, you know. And I mean, we did it. I mean, you can do it. Like, you know, we got into our venue at 4:30, and like it's fine. I mean, you can do it, and it's not whatever, but it's just being able to just kind of exist there for more than 6 or 8 hours. I think is a pretty cool thing that is not thought of enough. I think I do think sometimes, like you were talking about with like the money and, you know, and the costs and stuff, and it's the same with the time too. And like, well, we're going to get ready here and then do photos and then photos here and photos here. And you're like, okay, well, we're going to be like 6 different places in 4 hours. And that's going to be like, not fun, you know, just not.
Oh my gosh. And I have to tell you, I don't think I ate the day of my wedding because I was a little optimistic when I had my dress ordered and after having a baby. And I was so hungry. By the time the ceremony was over, we're trying to take family photos. All I could think about was eating. I was so grumpy. I was like so stressed from the day and just having everything, you know, okay, the ceremony's over, we're married, and it's just a whirlwind. I was so hungry, and that's all I could think about. I had just gotten married, you know? And so my planner, bless her heart, brought me over a drink and a snack. And that was, I mean, I don't know why, but that sticks in my head, like, as one of the highlights of my wedding.
Oh my God, that's funny.
So, yeah, I mean, just when I was building like my vision for this venue, it was like, how can I make the wedding experience better for people? And that was the first thing that came into my head. Is if they had the whole weekend, they'd have a easier, less stressful, more fun time. And that's what I want. That was the whole goal of the venue.
And looking through all the photos here on the site, I mean, it looks just like a lot of just nice looks and things. I mean, a lot of different, you know, with the backyard and the house and being able to do stuff in front of the house and details. I mean, it just seems like a lot of variety, you know, for being on the property. I do think sometimes, you know, you shoot at some places and you're like, okay, well, there's not a lot here, or what do we do here, or what's going on? What do you, in your opinion, what are some of the biggest draws of, you know, visually about the property?
Yeah, well, we did just literally just had the house painted white, and so it's really gorgeous now. I mean, the garden is really, really pretty. It looks good on pictures, but when you walk back there, it's honestly kind of breathtaking. And so I think that's really big. And the layout is nice. It's easy to like feel intimate, even with a small group, like in that whole space, but also have enough space to accommodate a larger group. And when I say larger, I mean like we cap at 175, so not huge. But yeah, I think those are nice. One thing that I haven't done yet that I really want to do is we're very close to 2 rivers, and I've driven over them and passed by some what look to be lovely photography spots, but they're, I mean, within, 5 minutes driving of the house. And I'd love to do a styled shoot where people are on the river. I think that would be beautiful. And none of the other couples who have, it was a wedding venue before I bought it, just quite different than I have it now. But none of them have done any shoots as far as I can tell on the river. And so I think that would be really, really nice photos. And then, of course, we have Mount Rainier, like right down the street. So yeah.
Lots of stuff nearby that you can go get. I'm looking here on the site at your investment calculator, and that goes back because I was going to ask you anyway about, you were talking about, educating couples with, the overall costs and everything. That's a neat little thing I haven't seen too much of. How did that come about, or is that, I don't know. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, totally. So that basically came down to like 2 things. One, I want couples to be more educated about their wedding, because I don't want them to be stuck 3 months before the wedding, not being able to pay for it, or being extremely stressed, or having to work 2 jobs or whatever, like begging for money from their parents. 2, I think we have a pretty good value for what we have. You get the full weekend accommodations, Friday through Sunday, you get a planner, decor. So I'm kind of trying to do like a semi-inclusive package with that, where the goal is that you're having a relaxing, fun wedding. And so the calculator was, basically to educate couples, but also to like show our value a little bit stronger. One thing I've struggled with is when people are inquiring, they don't seem to like connect the dots with like the planners included, and it's a professional planner. It's not like the venue manager on site, And so I've been trying to clarify that a little bit more, and kind of working on how to clarify that, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of how that came about.
No, it's great because and even from like your real estate background, it's kind of like when you're doing those, what's my mortgage going to be or whatever things. Where
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
it is really not. We just, just refinance with all the, the
hmm
COVID, whatever stuff.
Sure.
And our new loan bank, has like just a little thing, and it's like, okay, change your monthly thing, and it adjusts the dates and all that stuff. And like showing that to my wife was so great because it's so nice to just like see it and be able to like adjust things and see it. I mean it. And like she was like, oh my God, like I really get it now, and I really get like that. And I think this is great too. Just a way because I'm a proponent, and if in lots of episodes of this podcast, I'm a proponent of like putting pricing on everything, being very upfront about that. I would rather book one wedding a month and have them know exactly what the cost is than get 10,000 emails and send back to everyone saying, we're over budget or whatever. And so I think like, not hiding behind any of that stuff and just being really transparent about it, I think is really cool.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember when I was looking at venues, this is not a knock on any venue at all because everyone runs their business differently and have every right to. But it was really frustrating when I'd find a beautiful venue and I'd look at it and then not pricing anywhere. And I thought, well, it's probably out of our budget. So I either would email them and come back shocked, or I wouldn't email them, or maybe I email them and it's lower than I thought. But it was, I just remember that being like such a pain point for me when I was looking for a venue. Like, why don't they just put their pricing on their page?
Well, and also you get a lot of people where vendors are like, oh, why do all these people ghost me or whatever? I'm like, honestly, a lot of them, it's maybe because they're embarrassed because they emailed somebody and thought, wow, I love these photos. I can't wait to talk to this person. And then they're like, oh my God, I could never afford that. And then they feel bad about it. And you're like, man, if you have that stuff out there or at least like starting or range or whatever, but no, I think it's so important to be, because people don't know, you don't know what, like we're trying to get bark delivered to do some like outdoor projects. Like, I don't know what bark costs. And then you look at the site and you're like, oh, okay. It'll be like $100 or whatever. Like I can do that, but you don't know ahead of time. And so, assuming that people know like what all your, like we know what everyone's services should cost, but they don't know,
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think, I think coming into this business as a brand new, totally not related to weddings person, but also having just been married, it's given me a little bit of a different perspective on just how couples are thinking when they're booking, because they're planning the wedding usually vast majority of the time right now for the first time ever, and they don't know what things should cost, and maybe their parents think they know and are telling them, or maybe they have no idea too, and so they're either asking their friends or they're going on the Knot or Googling it, but there's not a lot of information on what things, quote, should cost. And I think that's been hard for a lot of people. I know it was hard for me.
Well, and even like that stuff on the Knot, where they're like, the costs are so not correct sometimes for like,
I can't remember which one it is, but it gives you like the wedding estimate for what it should cost. And I like look at some of them. I'm like, this is not even close to accurate.
No. One time, I did read, and it was something about like the average cost of like a King County wedding was like $35,000 or something. And I was like, yeah, I called in like a lot of like vendor favors, but like if I hadn't known a lot of our vendors, I was like, yeah, that probably is about accurate. And that was like the only time I've ever seen anything that was like even remotely in the realm of like what we paid, or like what it actually cost.
Yeah. Oh, and a word on the investment calculator. If any of you vendors are out there and you're looking at it and think it's wildly off, please email me, because I don't really know what everything should cost. I've asked a few people, but I'm always happy to take advice and adjustments.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And especially like, and then also having, the education of like the planner. Cause I do think that's, for people to know that, I think is great, because you might think like, oh, this is going to be someone that just is going to like put out chairs or whatever. And, it's hard. So.
Oh my gosh. And I think some couples know from the bat, like right off the bat, they want a planner or a coordinator or something to help them. But I've talked to so many who, oh yeah, well, my sister-in-law is going to be the coordinator. And I'm like, okay, but Does she do weddings? First of all, second of all, is she a guest? Because if she's working your wedding, and let me tell you, planners, when they're at weddings, they're not hanging out. They're not enjoying, the wedding. They're working like hard. So it's just like, why do you want your wedding guests to be on the job? You're paying for them to be there, so let them enjoy the wedding. And even if they think they want to be the coordinator, maybe they've done it once before. I don't know. They're not. And I think it's a lot to put on someone to ask them or to expect them to coordinate your wedding and execute it correctly if they're not doing it for a living.
No, we had one of my wife's friends who volunteered to help do that for our wedding.
Yeah.
And I already knew we were going to hire a planner, but I said no, because I want someone that I can yell at, and I don't want to yell at you. I want someone I'm paying that I can yell at.
Right, exactly. It's so true. And hopefully they do their job correctly. You don't have to yell at them.
Yes, no, but yes, thinking worst case scenario, I want someone I can scream at.
Oh yeah, I know. You can't if Aunt Sally ruins your wedding, you can't just not talk to Aunt Sally ever again, or write her a bad review on Yelp. That's your wedding that you just put in the hands of Aunt Sally, who, for whatever reason, missed the ball on something, which is fair, and she's a wedding guest.
Exactly. Oh my God, this has been so fun getting to chat with you today, getting to meet you and our correspondence online and everything. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we let you go?
No, we covered a lot of bases.
You did great. I appreciate the insights, and I think this was a great outing, and I hope that we can get to work together here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once, I'd like to work with anybody again, but especially you after this conversation. It's been great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been really fun for me. I like chatting about this stuff.
If people want to learn more about you and the venue and even checking out, the calculator and the photos and just lots of good resources on the site, where would you have them check out?
Yeah, ordingmanor.com. We're on Instagram or on Facebook at Ording Manor. But yeah, if you go to our website, ordingmanor.com, just go over to all the details and you click investment calculator. There's your investment calculator and pretty much anything else you might want to know about us.
Perfect. Well, you did great. If you're like Brianna and you're interested in coming on the podcast, you can go to www.bestmadevideos.com/podcast guests. And that's a nice, easy questionnaire that we have set up to kind of get you in the system, and we can get stuff rolling and try to figure out if something would work out. This has been another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. Check back next week for another wedding vendor interview. Thanks so much.